I just want to say thanks everybody for joining us today. Happy to have Keith Pribble with Simple Control on the line with us for this week's webinar. As usual, we are recording this session and it will be posted up to our YouTube channel. This will ultimately replace the session that we have up there already with the updated content. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Keith and we'll get this started. But thanks everybody for coming.
All right, thank you, Bill. And thank you for all joining us. We do appreciate it. So Simple Control, we want to take you through a few different aspects of Simple Control. Now, with me is Rob Zern. Rob is our Director of Sales Engineering, and he will also be joining us. First, I'd like to start off with an agenda of what we'll be talking about here today. We're going to give you a little bit of the category background, and then we're going to be talking about the future of home control, a system overview, new features, which we just implemented, our new multi-home aspect. We're going to be talking about product mix, simple service subscription. We're going to be going over some tools needed for the install job and some other aspects of it. A live 3-device setup, and then questions and answers at the end. But you can answer questions throughout the presentation, either by chat or unmuting yourself and just ask the question. We're more than happy to answer them for you as we go through. The category background. Audio videos are the heart of every home, and they get more complicated and have gotten more complicated as time has gone on, as we all know. The consumer is sitting there wondering about, how do I easily control my TV and music control? Smart home devices are relatively new within the last 5 to 10 years. They incorporate anything from cameras to thermostats to lights to electrical outlets and streaming devices of both media and also audio. Customers wanting to know, how do I make everything work together so I can have one simple, easy to use system? The way that it has been used over the years to run complete home automation systems and control systems throughout your house is a central box goes somewhere in the house. It has lots of wiring that has been designed specifically to make the system work from one room to another. And then this wire has been dropped throughout the house by a team of people that go in and actually do the installation. It's a very complicated system to get done. Smart hubs and apps have been around for the last few years, and they have been anywhere from people like SmartThings to Iris, to Wemo, to Wink, Vera, Istion, and others. And basically, they're devices that have the ability to control the individual device, maybe a few other devices, but still leave the heart of the home vacant, which is the home audio system, with really no control for it. Universal remote controls have been around for quite some time, and these universal remote controls are typically a single room operation, and they are devices that have minimal, if any, outside source for running the Internet of Things. They control a room, they're IR typically controlled and not an IP controlled device. So welcome to the future. What we believe is the future is simple control, and why that we believe that is, one, it's a two-way interface. It's using the most modern way of computing, which is your handheld device, either in an iPhone type environment or an iPad or an iTouch, giving you two-way interface between the devices that you're controlling as well as the Internet of Things that will be in your house. So you have complete control of both your home AV system, home theater system, or the Internet of Things. How we do this is a simple process. We have an app that's downloaded into the iPad. We have a simple cloud backup system, which restores and backup through our simple cloud, provides remote access and others. We have a hub-based system that provides, I guess the best way to think about the hub is to think of it as another handheld device that stays at home all the time and keeps your home active when you're out and away from your house. And it provides the access back into your home when you're gone. And Rob will be talking about that in more detail as he goes through his presentation on setup and stuff. Then we use the power of the network to integrate between everything in your home. So we have the access of going through your running lights, thermostats, home AV system, televisions, whatever it may be, going back through the system itself. Our IP control is very extensive. We have IP control for all the major home AV systems that are on the marketplace, along with many of the Internet of Things type products. And it's a constantly growing device list. The best way to keep track of that is look at our compatibility chart on our website to see how it changes on a week-to-week basis with adds that we're adding to the system. Our goal is to become completely IP control versus IR. And if you look at our library, it's by far more comprehensive than anybody's in the industry at this point. We're also offering some very unique and extensive television guides within the handheld device itself. So as you start thinking about our system, our guide systems takes the TV guides that you would normally have on your TV set. They still reside there as well, but we place them on the handheld device itself so that you're not interrupting your family members as you sit and watch TV and you want to find out what other show you might want to watch next, or you don't like the show that you're watching, you want to go into a different room or whatever. So basically in the right-hand side here, it provides all the TV station information and or movies that you have on your DVR. When you click on one, it pops up the center screen and gives you the detailed information about that movie. And then all your controls move over to the left-hand side over here. If you go a step further and go down to credits, it will pop up all the movie stars or people that are in the show on the left-hand side. You click on one of them, it will then pop up and provide the biography of that person, and then there's additional information beyond that. So it's very, very comprehensive in what you can see and do within it as well. In regards to the system overview, the company was founded in 2011 by a gentleman by the name of Will Price. Will was a co-founder and the chief engineer to software development for a company called PGP, which is Pretty Good Privacy. Pretty Good Privacy is the front-end security for the internet for many governments around the world, different branches of our government, and banks and large corporations around the world. So Will's got an extensive amount of background in security and development and software. They sold the company to Symantec in 2010 for a fair amount of money, I'm sure, and they retired shortly after that and started developing or had a love for home AV as well as building a new home. When it was completed, the home, he didn't like the control system that was in the home, and then set off to develop his own control system, which is where we are today with Simple Control. When he started the company, it was called Roomy Remote, for those of you that might have tried the remote in the past. And we've added a tremendous amount of control capabilities over the past number of years, especially within the last year. And now with Simple Control, we control well over 250,000 devices and have more than 100,000 units sold around the world. So it is a very well vetted product, and we know it works very well. There's 5 core components within the system. The first one is the actual app itself, which is the downloadable piece that comes from the Apple App Store into your device. The Simple Service subscription, which provides basically an ongoing revenue stream for you, which we'll talk about later as well. And it provides the guides, that provides the remote access, the remote or the multi-home capability, and a number of other features, and we'll talk about it in more detail later. And then we also just added multi-home, which provides multiple home integration. So if you have more than one home, you can control it, as well as remote management for yourselves so that you can go back into the home, actually be able to make changes and adjustments within that home without having to roll a truck out there to do any work. And then the Simple Hub, which we'll talk about in more detail later as well. And the Simple Hub has the ability to be that handheld device that stays at home when all the other devices are with you on vacation or work or wherever you may be. The simple blaster for any legacy products that are in the home, so that you can hook them up and send an IR signal to them, and or any new product that might not have IP control. We've won 2 different awards over the last couple of years. In 2015, we won the Software of the Year Award from Tech Home. 2016, we won the Apple of the Year Award from Tech Home. CE Pro recently did a review in May on us, and the review is very extensive, providing all kinds of information about our system, and also talked about how incredibly good it was for the price points that we actually are selling the product at, and all the functionalities and capabilities it has. So if you want to dig up that review, it's very informative on what it talks about and how they viewed the system as very, very, very positive for the marketplace. Some of the screen interactions, we're going to actually show you how to do this later on, but we're going to, in here we have an overview of the 2-way communication between the receiver and the Apple TV and what it's providing for music information. Got all your albums on one side and what you have recorded in your Apple TV system, as well as your 2-way communication, an Onkyo receiver with internet streaming, providing the information from the receiver, providing all the Pandora information down on the right-hand side here, and then the music and a little picture of the album. And then we've got an image of Sonos here, which provides that same type of information, 2-way communication between it, and then you have grouping and non-grouping as well through it. So you have a lot of control over the Sonos system as well through the system. So it really provides a great interface between them and ties your whole home together. And then we're also totally controllable with the Apple Watch. So you can run your system through Apple Watch and all the different controls that we provide. And then we also have an in-app transfer feature. So basically what this is you have the ability to connect an URL or an app directly into a button on the system, so that you can transfer back and forth between them without feeling like you're leaving the simple control device itself. In the handset control itself, we have volume control, so that you can turn the volume up and down on the device itself just by switching a button on at the setup time. And then you have the side buttons that you can work with for volume control. Gesture control, so that you can basically swipe your finger across or thumb across things and have the reaction come for volume control, or whatever it is that you want to set up, volume up and down, channel up and down, play, pause, record. Those types of features can be all through gesture controls, making it really simple and easy and fast to control. And then incoming call pause. So if you're watching something, you get a phone call, the phone will automatically put the system in pause, so that you can have a conversation and hear what's going on. We're also totally compatible with the Amazon Echo, and we have the ability to basically do simple commands. As an example, if you were walking out of your bedroom in the morning and you wanted to have CNN on by the time you got into the kitchen, you could say, Alexa, please turn on Simple Controls TV in the kitchen, CNN, and it will automatically go to that and turn on and provide the information for you. So it really makes it easy voice activation system for any homeowner. And Rob's going to start from here. He's going to go through the remote access and multi-home control.
Thanks, Keith. And this is a new feature going forward with version 4.5.0. But it has been expanded into other capabilities with multi-home. But remote access basically means that whether you're on the local area network or outside the network, you'll be able to have control the system. All the two-way feedback will certainly be there. The only thing that we're not providing from remote access is actually camera streams. And again, Keith alluded to an app transfer. So in some cases, you could have a button in the app itself that would transfer to the camera's app that's in your phone and jump back and forth that way. Since we talk to so many devices at a time when we're controlling the system, that it ended up making it very slow to try and have video streams incorporated with that. But you can monitor what's going on. You can basically see everything that's happening, and pretty much everything that you can do in the home, you can do remotely as well. And with that, we also expanded this capability into basically having control of multiple locations on the same account. So under your same simple control account, you'd be able to add locations. In this case, we have 3 other locations that we've added: Cabin Retreat, Lake Home, and Ski Condo. And they're all interchangeable. You basically would log into one or the other. And so when you're leaving one and going to the other, you can just jump in and start controlling that location using the same account. So with multi-home, once they're set up, in this case, it's just a scroll wheel in settings. You would choose which one you wanted to go to. Again, you're always signed into the same account, and you would just choose that one that you're at, and that configuration would then be populated to the device that's in your hand. Again, as long as your device count is under 100 for all of those locations, you'll be able to use as many homes as you want. So with that, if you're looking at it here, you also have the ability to have permissions given to others to use your system. And essentially there's 3 levels. There's owner, which is obviously the account holder, and there's either administrator or a guest. And in this case, the integrator and the babysitter are allowed to use the system. The integrator would be full access to making edits and changes, monitoring and everything else. And the babysitter would basically just have guest access, which means either a single room or operable of your level of control, but no editing capabilities at all. And this would be an invite from the account holder. So they can invite as many users as they wanted to, as long as that other user had a simple control account as well. And so in with that, again, that was multi-home. So single account with multiple locations, inviting other users. But in this case, this is really showing remote management, which means the integrator would have invited himself or had the customer invite their account to access the configuration remotely, which means monitoring and any editing or adding or deleting of components. And so you basically can have your whole customer database on the scroll wheel within the app itself. And so you can scroll through those accounts, log into one, either make changes or edits or see what's going on with their system, log out of that one, go to the next one. All of those configurations would be available to you on your handheld device. So the other thing that we've added back into Simple Control System, is ability to use Dropbox. And Dropbox is very helpful for custom graphics, or if there's any other custom codes that needed to be added to a customer's account, that can be incorporated into the remote management feature. And then that new version can be pushed to the customer's account. The customer would just restore and have the new versions available to them as well. Again, in all of these locations where remote management is necessary, they will require a simple hub in order for you to have remote access and remote management. So going back through the key features, the IP control library we have is very extensive, and it is very nice in terms of auto discovery and allows you to add these devices. It pre-configures everything. It knows what controls are necessary. It gives you the ability to customize that layout, but everything's done right when you do it. And I'll go through that in the demonstration. You can also have these set up for live commands or automatic commands, which is essentially being able to incorporate input select and power on, power off for all of these activities that are built into a room's configuration. When you build it on one device, and you can start with an iPod Touch, you can start with an iPad Pro, it doesn't matter. Once you have it configured to one of the devices, any other device that becomes part of that system will keep synchronized and will also then scale to the appropriate size and resolution for that device. So in my case, I'll be demoing this on an iPad mini, but everything that I'm doing on this will scale to all other iOS devices without having to make any other manipulations. Amazon Echo, Keith talked about. Essentially, the only thing that you have to do is associate the Simple Control skill in the Alexa app, but all is necessary is for you to read off the names of the activities as you word them in, and so I can talk about that on the live demo as well. Simple Hub. The Simple Hub is a local backup. I mean, the main purpose of this device is to be an always-on, always running device on the network, on the local network. That does a couple things. One, it never shuts off, so it's always available to have synchronization between devices that come and go. Truly, devices are mobile, and so we want them to stay mobile. It can also be there to run triggers and timed events, which means it's always got its internal clock running, and so it can execute any sort of timed events if everybody else is gone. And it would take the external commands from, say, an Amazon Alexa or a Lutron or a Nest or a SmartThings or Vera commands. All these external devices can trigger events within our configuration, and the hub would be the one that's necessary to be there to make that work. Remote access we talked about, and multi-home we talked about, managing multiple homes on a single account and giving remote management to an integrator to have multiple accounts managed also as well.
And the product mix. So there's two main SKUs within the system. One is the complete system, and the other is the software-only package. The difference between the two is truly just the fact that it has the hub in the second one, or I'm sorry, the complete system, and it has the ability to be that stay-at-home piece that's always on. And retail price point is $429 versus $229. So it's about a $200 price point for that little computer that stays at home all the time. Great little device that keeps the system active. The other part of it is that all of the packaging is in a retail style box, so that when you hand it over to the consumer that's buying it from you, it has a nice look and feel as they see it and realize that they're buying something of value. Also, it can be something that if you're running a store, you have the ability to set on a shelf and it looks nice as a sellable product. Then we also have our blasters. Our blasters do come with two emitters and one blaster that plug into the actual device itself. They're at, for Ethernet versions, $115, the Wi-Fi versions at $120, and then the PoE versions at $129. There are a number of other cables that are available, but the most popular cable would be the RS-232 cable. And you do need to use our RS-232 cable because of the connection that we have in it that need to work with this device here. So it's a $35 RS-232 cable. The simple service subscription, which we mentioned that we'd talk about later on, basically it is a subscription-based service that's $50 a year to use, but what you get in that $50 is the ability to run 100 devices in multiple homes, screen guides for 34 countries, but obviously we're concerned about here, and screen guides for all the different TV cable stations around the country, as well as DirecTV, Dish, and TiVo and other devices that that you would need screen guides for. We also support media player guides for Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV, and a few others. We do have guides for Kodi, Plex. Unfortunately, Kaleidoscape. We know what's happened there. Music streaming devices for AV receivers, Sonos and Hios. And the most recent ad, I don't know if any of you sell Bose, but we do have IP control now for the Sound Touch control for Bose as well. You can personalize your guides, which Rob will show you, so that you can put your favorite channels in the guides. We provide timers and triggers for Lutron, Radio Raw, ISY, many other types of control. We have backup support in the cloud, as well as Dropbox for restore and backup. And then all the software improvements that we do have come out during the course of the year is included in that, with new feature activation and firmware updates. Remote access to access your system, and multi-homes, so that you can manage all the homes that you're working on, and or if the end user has the ability to manage the homes that they own. Yes, we do work with Comcast and Xfinity as previous slides. Any support yet for time frame? For their IP control, we have not been able to get any information on the IP control yet. It's a task that we're constantly looking for, trying to get the IP control for it, and we can't get it until they release it to us. So it's something that we're working on, but we hope to have some conversations with them at CEDIA. So something we're working on. But currently, Comcast does work with the system as well, so you can use it through an IR control. So in summary, Simple Control's easy-to-use interface ties into your home AV system, provides complete control of smart devices through the Internet of Things, all through your handheld device. So it's a very simple, easy application to download, set up, and control. Rob will spend some time going through the next part of the presentation and show you how easy it is to actually run and operate the system and actually program it. So thank you very much. Rob, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Keith. I'm gonna just jump on a couple quick slides for this. So we're gonna talk about preparing the workspace, and the workspace in this case is going to be a unique area, having the right tools, and these tools are going to be very different as well. But in the live demo, we're going to create and set up a room. I'm going to add some devices, and again, I'm assuming that you know, in this case, all these devices are already set up on the network. They're already ready to accept IP commands from external devices. But I will go through a couple IP control devices. I will add a serial device and an infrared controller if we have time as well, infrared controlled tuner. I'll create the activities, what we're calling activities. Most people know them as macros in the rooms to choose those sources. And then we'll incorporate the guide services and customize those as well. And then we can talk about customizing the device layout. So you get a default layout for every single device that has all of their commands on it, but you can easily change the layout, the order, add buttons, take them away at your liking, and save those device layouts as custom design, so you can use those again in other locations. And then I'll talk about the button feedback for volume control, override for the hard buttons on the iPad itself, and then the incoming call pause, which essentially is only for the room that you're in with the device that you're holding. So it's not pausing the entire system, and it's not basically happening every time. It's just if you have a phone that has that selection in that particular room, it will pause that particular device. And again, if you have questions anytime, let us know. And I think there was one that came up here.
So Rob, you might want to expand your screen.
Oops. Is that better? Otherwise I can start it. Nope, choose a different page. All right, I got 3 other screens. That's why if I switch over, I lose the ability to control it. So in this case, the workspace is the network, the local area network for the end user, the customer's setup. And so it's necessary to have administrator credentials for control over the network hardware. That includes the routers, the modems, any switchers that are managed, any wireless access points. I mean, usernames and passwords, that's very, very important. Make sure that the Wi-Fi coverage is in areas that the controllers will be, as well as the devices that are going to be Wi-Fi controlled. So not just where the phone is, but where the TV is. And it is very important that we've got good connection to these devices. And most people kind of overlook the fact that sometimes these are all on the periphery in some cases. Confirm the added number of Ethernet ports for the hardware devices, number of PoE ports for all the PoE devices as well. Multicast, I hinted about that in the past with remote access. Multicast means that one device, our iPad or the iPhone, is talking to, in some cases, up to 100 devices on the network at the same time. And so some routers will basically have that disabled as a default, and it needs to be on to allow one device to talk to many in order for auto discovery and control to work. And we do track IP addresses, and we'll track those changes, but it would be best practice to essentially have control of the network by either establishing static IP addresses for the devices, or better yet, having a block of IP addresses that are not in the DHCP range for static leases in the network. So the router, again, having control over that is very beneficial. If they don't change, we don't have to scan them continuously, and it'll just make for a much more reliable process on the system control. So in terms of the workspace, that's the network. In terms of having tools, it's really, again, the software information, the username and passwords for all of these devices. Again, a lot of times come up where you're starting to set up the system and you don't have the customer's Pandora username and password for the account, so you can't link the Pandora to the account. Making sure that if there's hubs or bridges, that they usually have usernames and passwords to get in, so you can download the manifest to pull in all the lighting information from their hub. Make sure that the iPads, iPhones are all updated to the most recent operating system, and that also includes all of the devices. We've seen this many, many times where, especially with Sony TVs, their firmware has a big connection to their ability for IP control. And so make sure that those devices have all the firmware updated as well. Again, streaming sources, having those account credentials is important. And then one that's most important in a lot of cases is overlooked is most devices come out of the box as default not being able to be controlled remotely. They have a whole slew of different names as to what they call that, but in most cases they're either under system settings or network settings, or you need to enable remote control from an external device. It could be called network standby, it could be called whole home control, but there are one or many features that need to be turned on in order for those commands to be brought back. So knowing the products very well, it's very important to have an understanding of what needs to be turned on in order for us to control it. We might be able to discover it, we might be able to add it to the system, but the moment you turn it off, that device was never been told to actually monitor the network to see if it needs to turn back on. Or we might be able to control it, but we might not have enabled the permissions to have all the information come back in terms of program content, current programming, and all that stuff. And so there's features in there that needs to be activated for the system to work at its best. And that's going to be different for different devices. A lot of these requirements are in the notes on the compatibility chart on our website. So if you go to our website and go to compatibility chart and you look under IP controlled system, you'll pretty much see any sort of requirement, whether it's a manual add for an IP control, whether it's a enabling some of these settings within the devices themselves. We're going to have those listed basically per brand, but in some cases it's per model, it's different. And so pay attention to that, and it's very helpful to make sure that everything gets added and is capable of being used right off the bat. So I am going to switch over now. See if I can here. All right, can you guys see my iPad?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Basically, I have my system done here. What I'm going to do is clear the entire thing out and start from scratch. I've got a red line on the top here because I've disconnected from my hub. If I did not do that, I would essentially, whenever I clear this configuration out, I would be prompted to get it reloaded right back in. So in this case, I'm starting from scratch. I normally wouldn't be doing this, but so I've disconnected it from the hub, so it's not going to continuously try to give me the most recent version. But so let me do that first, and then I'll go through the settings here in terms of the system settings for the app itself. But I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to say Reset Simple Control, and it's going to clear out my configuration. So the first time you open the app, this is what you would see. You would see essentially a column of rooms, and in this case, the only room is named Home. You'd have a settings icon here, which would get into the system settings. You'd have an edit pencil here. You'd have an edit pencil over here. This is to edit the device itself. This pencil is to edit the rooms and the activities. And so I'll go through the system settings here first. You would typically sign in. And again, I've unpaired from my Simple Hub, but that's where you would see the devices that are on the system. Simple Store would basically tell you what account information you have in terms of what you're activated for. And again, I'm not logged in, so nothing is going to show up. So let me first of all sign in, because in most cases you'd be doing this right off the bat when you open the app itself. Okay, so now it's basically telling me that I am logged in, and I have an active Simple Service account. I have 0 of 100 devices that are available to me right now, and so I'm ready to start building the system. There's a video tutorial link, and that'll take you to a just a video that goes through is similar to what we're doing. It's not as customized, it's a little more genericized, but kind of gives you an overview of what we're talking about. There's a contact support link here that's going to give you the ability to send in the configuration as well as any notes or information to our support team. So if there's an issue with, I can see the DirecTV, but I can't get any feedback from the unit. We can see all the settings, and we can replicate that setup and basically figure out what's going on, what settings need to be changed to make that work. And then this next category here is really just for this device itself. This is specific to this iOS controller, and you can have these unique to every single device on the system. So auto dim and auto lock, these would be overriding the defaults if you wanted to change those from the defaults of the controller itself. Button sound, button vibrate, those are pretty self-explanatory. Incoming call pauses, I'm going to turn that on, which basically means this isn't a phone or it's my iPad that's connected to my phone, and I get a call coming in, and I'm playing a device that has a pause command. I'll be able to initialize the pause and then actually have the ability to answer the phone. If that wasn't turned on, the app is still running in the background, but the phone app comes up first. And so you'd have to be able to answer the phone, then go back to the app, hit pause, and then go back and resume the phone call. We're just kind of taking that step out of it, and so it automatically pauses when the phone call comes in. That's totally defeatable if you didn't want to, but it's certainly there, and it's a very useful feature. Always scan devices and warn on address changes. If you set up the network properly, meaning DHCP leases or static IP, you'll never have to turn these on. This would be if you have no control over the customer's network or it's locked down, and these devices may always change their IP address. what this is going to do is it's going to continuously scan for these changes using the MAC addresses that were initially set up. But it's also going to make everything run a little slower because it's always using some of its processing time to see what's available where. And again, if that's something that can be turned off and eliminated by using static or DHCP leases, it's always recommended to go that route. Where non-address changes would be a pop-up window that would say the IP address has changed because the lease was expired. You know, if it's a Blu-ray player or something else that's not always continuously on the network, that might be a big benefit, but it's better to have these as static or leased. And the override volume I have got turned on right now. So again, my hard buttons on the side of the iPad will control the volume of the device of the room that is currently being used with this device. So everybody can have this activated, and regardless of what room you're in, it will just switch over and control the room volume that way. So there's some other information here in the settings. It gives you the information about their channel guides, remote designs. I have none of both of these. Proximity automation, we wouldn't get into until the advanced feature set, but that's location with Bluetooth low energy location capabilities within activities. Triggers, I don't have any set up as well. That would be timed events or external trigger commands. And here's my backup options. I have backup to simple service and restore from simple service. This is a cloud backup. I can activate a Dropbox account, which means it is a cloud backup, but it is also a more or less of a file server scenario, so you can manipulate those files as well. If the hub were turned on and activated, that is a local backup. And again, every time you add another device, another controller to the system, you'll be able to have synchronization across those devices. And so all of the controllers will have a local copy. The hub will have a local copy. You'll have a cloud backup to simple service, and you'll have a Dropbox link as well. There's also ability when you do a backup to simple service, there's a link you can send in an email, and you can send this link to anyone, and they could open it up on the iPad and actually restore it that way also. Editing prevention is essentially making a device either a one-room option, a single-room mode, or all rooms, which means that, you know, if this is the one that's sitting in the guest room, or if this is the one that's sitting in the exercise room and all you wanted to do was that room, you can turn that on and basically give it only partial control over the system. This can be password protected as well, so you can unlock it at any time if you have the password there. Code sets, this is again more status information. When was the last time we updated our code sets in the app, which was a couple weeks ago. I don't have any downloaded, and I don't have any custom code sets right now. Collecting diagnostics, this would be something that our support team would ask to turn on if needed to find out what's going on between communication of our app and other control devices as well. And reset simple control, this is what I first did. This is typically something that clears everything out right off the bat, and so it would start from scratch. The other reason to use this is if you're building the configuration and you paired it with a hub, any other controller that you would bring online, it's recommended that you log in and do a reset simple control. The hub will see this as a request to pair with it, and that way it'll get the most recent configuration as well as stay paired with the hub. And then, so you only have to build this once, and then everything else gets synchronized after that. So that's the easy way to add the configuration to the second, third, and fourth iOS controllers on the system. Is just do a reset simple control. It'll send out a request to say who's got the most recent version and send it in and update that way.
So Rob, there's a question in regards to future support for other cloud-based backups.
I've not seen anything. I mean, we just rolled back Dropbox into the Simple Control System account. And so I have not heard of any sort of talk about having any other sort of backup options for that. If you back it up to Dropbox, then it just becomes files. And at that point, you can do whatever you wanted with those files as well.
Okay.
Let's see. That was all I had for that. Okay, so I am going to close out of settings. Again, right now it's telling me that I have an active simple service and I have 0 of 100 devices. And so I'm going to build out this room. I don't like it called home, so I'm going to choose my pencil here, and I'm just going to edit the name. Let's call it family room. And I can change this icon if I wanted to as well. And then there's a couple other options here, and this is specific to each room. Activity layout, size to fit. I can choose the size of the activity layout, which means that on any device and on any orientation, it's going to be a preset size. So if you wanted to have it a fixed size, you can choose to do that as far as the size of the activity buttons to press. Again, it's only going to be for this particular room. You can do this room by room, but size to fit works the best for most, because if you're adding more activities, it tries to put those all in the same single screen, and so you're not having to scroll through if there's a lot of activities listed in a room itself. And then monochromatic images is an option. If you saw when I was going up here to choose image, we've got options between some colored images and the monochromatic. The monochromatic, there's a couple more options there, but essentially, oops, I didn't want the barbells. It's your choice to have that as a default. So I've added the family room as a room. I'm going to get out of the edit mode for the rooms itself. And now I'm going to actually select this room just by pressing it. And now it's going to get in. So I'm in the family room. I'm in edit mode because there's nothing I have actually to control at this time. And I'm going to say add device. So what this does is it lists the cloud services that are available right now that we can link accounts towards. So if I had an Insteon account, what I do is I click on this. It would take me right to their Insteon account login location. So it would link the credentials to this, and so we'd have communication over these cloud services. What we're going to talk about today is the local network devices. The options I have are manual IP, and in some cases you might have to manually add devices. You'll see that on the compatibility chart on our website as well. But what it did is it just scanned my network to see what was available. And so I have a couple Apple TVs. This one is actually in sleep mode, so it's not seeing it right now. I got a Fire TV. I've got iTunes running on a couple of different devices, a hard drive player, a computer. I've got a direct TV box. I got some very old global cache, IP to serial and IP to contact closure devices. I have a Lutron Cassetta Pro Bridge. I've got a Marantz surround receiver, a Panasonic plasma TV from way back when. I have quite a slew of Rumi blasters. These are just a earlier branded version of the exact same thing that we're selling today. I've got a couple of simple blasters, and these are the ones I'm going to be using for adding control for serial and IR. I got some Sonos devices, a couple of Connects and Connect amps. I got a Sony Blu-ray player, I got a TiVo, Vera Automation, and then a hard disk player, which is essentially my music server for Sonos. So I want to build this room out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the Marantz receiver. And it's a SR Series 1. And there's a couple things that pop up in terms of automatic setup when I add this device. So do I want power at for all activities? Well, yes, I do, because essentially this is my main controller. All my audio and video are going to be switched through here. So I'm going to turn that on. I don't need to track power state because I've already got discrete commands for those on and off from IP. I do want volume for all activities as well. So this will pre-populate the volume slider and the feedback from this device. And if I actually had inputs, I could add these inputs to the switching as well, but I don't have the sources in yet. And if there's any other information specific to this product, whether it's a user and password code that's required, whether it's other commands like a THX version of their volume control, something else that's unique to this product is going to show up on the bottom is here as well. In this case, it repeats for IP control. I've never had to change this on any sort of IP control device, but there's options there to increase intervals between commands. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. And the next thing it asks me is, do I want to create an activity? Well, sure. This is a streaming device that has a radio in it, but I'll just say create an activity, and it just says, okay, listen to music is the activity that it automatically created. It also built in a power off activity for the family room. So within this power off activity, I've got my power off command already assigned in here. Within my listen to music activity, I've got my power on activity already assigned in there and assigning the volume control for that activity. But I'm going to add a couple of devices. This is a TV room, so I'm going to add my DirecTV box. And this is an H series DVR. And again, automatic setup options, I'm not going to power for all activities because I'm only going to use it when I'm watching DirecTV. It's typically going to be left on anyways. If there's any, again, tweaks that have to happen for the switching, channel switching style and switching delay, this would be here. And this kind of comes up to the point of currently right now between Comcast and Xfinity, we don't have IP control of their devices, but we definitely do have IR control of their devices, which also means that the guide service is still valid. You'll still see interactive guide services for all the channels that are set up for that box to tune, and all of the channel macros, the channel requests for all of those stations are also going to be pre-populated with the guide service. So you don't have to create these icons, you don't have to create these channel macros even for an infrared device. But if there was any sort of delay that had to happen or a leading zero or something that had to happen on that particular product that we weren't aware of, you'd make those changes in that edit there as well. So this is an IP box. I do want to create an activity. And then the next thing it's going to ask me is, this actually has ability to tune channels, so do you want to add a guide? And I'm going to say yes. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask me for the postal code, which I already have listed here in terms of my location. And it's going to go out to the internet and look for all the providers that are in my area. And this is one note. The control system itself does not need internet service to operate the system. You can run everything with the local area network as long as that's intact. Turning on devices on and off. This isn't a cloud-based system. It's not going out somewhere and then coming back in to control the devices. It's all within the device itself. Hub included. It doesn't need the hub to operate the system either. But when you're setting the system up, like right now, I need to be able to download this information. We have guide services for 34 countries, and if you add up all of their zip codes and all of the providers, we couldn't possibly have all this information current and preloaded every time this app gets downloaded. So this is a real-time download for this zip code. These are my program content providers. So in this case, it's DirecTV box. I'm going to choose DirecTV, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And what it does now, it says, okay, that's the one you chose. I'm going to pull up all the stations that are available with DirecTV in that provider. And I can choose either some subsets to bring up. So let's say if I just choose premium, it's going to pull up all the premium channels. And then over here, I can select all, and it will save them all as part of this favorite channel list. If I just choose all, meaning every single station that's available to me, and then over here choose all, it just automatically selects all of these channels, but I can go in and edit these out one at a time if I wanted to. So the key is on the right-hand side, there's kind of these groupings that you can en masse add these, and then you can edit which ones you want to have actually added onto the system going forward. This is something that you can create as many guides as you want. You can have a music channel guide. You can have, the kids TV channel guide, and that can be the one that gets pulled up when they request a particular source. And so there's not just one guide. You can edit these on the fly after the fact too, so I can show you how to do that later. But let's say those are the channels that I wanted to have added. I've got quite a few, and actually on the side, I can swipe down very quickly to the higher channels just by writing on this number key on the side. So I'm just going to hit save. I've got a couple thousand channels in there, it sounds like. And I've got Watch DirecTV as an activity that's created in the family room. So I'm going to add a couple more devices. I'm going to add my Blu-ray player. let's see, is it down the bottom? Sony Blu-ray player. And if there's a particular model that has a unique set of codes or a unique set of protocols that aren't part of the normal lineup, you'll see these listed independently. But most cases, you're going to see all models, and then there might be a couple others that are going to be listed as separate. And one case in point is on the surround receivers. If you're adding a surround receiver and you're using multi-zone for the surround receiver, so zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3, those are all treated as completely separate devices, and so you would add it as an independent unit. You can combine their function, but you would add these separately. In this case, I'm just going to choose all models for the Sony Blu-ray player. Again, if I have anything that I wanted to add for automatic setup, I don't need to power for all activities. I'm not tracking power state. There's no channel switching, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. Again, it creates an activity up here, watch Blu-ray. So I've got 3 activities set up right now. I've got a surround receiver, a couple of sources. I'm going to add one more source, and then I'm going to add a TV to make this thing actually all go together. So I'm going to add a TiVo, and I'll go through the advantages and differences between TiVo, DirecTV, and Dish, but we have quite a bit of control interface interaction between these devices. TiVo has a media access key, this authentication. Again, this is where things would be needed to be added if it's unique to that particular device. I'm going to add this in right now, but again, this is something that should be known ahead of time. It can be added later, but it's just going to make everything go a lot smoother when all that information is done right up when you're adding these systems together. So yes, I want to create an activity. And I've got watch TiVo. Now I've got those 4 activities plus my off activity. I'm going to add my TV set. In this case, it's not going to show up because it's an LG TV that's going to be serial controlled. So I'm going to choose the blaster adapter that I've got assigned to it. It's giving me my IP address and my MAC address of the blaster adapter, so I know which one it is in this list. And when you first add it, it can either be a serial device, an infrared device, or a sensor control with their contact closure inputs or outputs. What's happening here is that these Ethernet blaster adapters can do any of these. It's software controlled. So once I say serial, now it assigns itself to being a serial controlled device. And in this case, it's going to ask me to choose what type. It is a TV, and the brand is LG. In most cases, all of LG TVs respond to the same serial command. So that's just the one option for that. So power for all activities, no, because I actually have a listen to music zone, so I'm not going to check that. I'm not going to use volume because essentially it is the surround receiver that's doing the volume control. So I'm not going to have any of these automatically added. I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. And it's going to ask me if I want to create activity for the TV. I'm going to say no because essentially this is just a display device. So I don't have any activity associated with watching TV. I've got my other video sources here as well. So I got my 5 devices I've added. One is a serial control through the blaster adapter. These are IP controlled for their devices. And again, they preloaded the activities and then the opening as far as the volume control and the guide services and everything else. But what I need to do now is the only real true programming part of this is to say, when I listen to music or watch DirecTV, what do I want to have happen? So I'm going to click Watch DirecTV, and I can edit the name of the title. This word right here, these words, the name of this title is really what you would be using for voice control commands from Alexa. So if you're using the standard ones that come in, we know that that's going to work very well with her. If you're using other terms in here, which you can do, you're just going to need to get her to learn those a little bit better. But what you're typing in here is what you'd be speaking to her in order to actuate those activities. Again, I can create a different image if I wanted to, but in this case, this activity is opening the DirecTV set-top box. All I did was said this is the model that I have, or I found on my network, and so it knows that it's an HR34. It knows the IP address and the MAC address, so it's going to keep track of that for me. I don't have a remote design for it. It's going to use the default right now, but the volume control is opening on this configuration is going to be the Marantz receiver. I don't have any particular device powering for this activity, but I do have it opening the DirecTV Guide service. So in this case, the only thing that's happening right now in the start commands is that the Marantz receiver is turning on. Well, I need to turn on the TV set as well. So I'm going to go down to select the TV, and what it does is it gives me every single command that's available to me via serial. And on the side here again is an alphabet. I can just go straight down to the P's and select power on and hit save. And so it added that command to the start command. I do need to tell which input I'm going to on the Marantz receiver. So again, I can go to the eyes. And in this case, I know that the DirecTV receiver is connected to SAT cable. So I can hit SAT cable, hit save. And then I need to tell it what input the TV is on. So I'm going to choose HDMI 1. So I'm going to go to input and choose HDMI 1 and hit save. Now I know in this case that these TVs, when you use these in serial control, that they take a little over 3 seconds for them to actually accept another command. And so what you're going to see is this is the order right now of the commands that are in the start mode. If I grab these little list icons over here, I can, not with my mouse, with my finger, I can move these around and change the order. But I also have ability to choose delays for each individual command. So in this case, I'm going to edit this power on command just by selecting it. And I'm going to say delay next command, which means it's only going to delay the commands to this particular TV, not to anything else in the activity, just this TV. And I'm going to choose 3 seconds, and I'm going to hit save, which means now that the Marantz gets turned on, 200 milliseconds later, the LG TV is turned on, 200 milliseconds later, the input for the cable box or cable input for the Marantz is selected. And then 3 seconds after this was executed, the HDMI input selection was done. I could delay all of the activity commands, or I could delay just the commands related to that particular model. So it gives you ability to have staggered delays within an activity. So, you know, if it takes a while for the TV to warm up, it takes a while for the surround receiver to warm up, it takes a while for the projector or whatever else to turn on and accept another input. All those delays can be happening concurrently, and so you don't have to stagger or stack these on top of each other. So I've got my start commands for my watch DirecTV activity. There's a stop command option, and this would be, you could put in a stop or a pause or a turn off if you wanted to. Whenever you leave this activity, what do you want to have happen? In this case, I'm not going to have anything happen because this satellite receiver is shared between a lot of other rooms, and so I don't want to basically affect something that's happening somewhere else. But I do have some activity types. I have power on, power off. I have automatic commands are selected, so that was populating my power on and power off for the surround receiver. Requesting confirmation is merely a dialog window that comes up, says, sure, you want to do this. Typically, you'd only set that up for like a system-wide off or all lights off command, so you don't accidentally press that. You can either make this a pop-up activity or a toggle mode, which means pop-up is kind of like a lighting page where you just pop up your lighting commands. You wanted to control the lights, and then you wanted to have it go away very quickly. So it's just kind of this pop-up window activity scenario. And then a toggle mode is just that. It's going to either do one set of commands when you hit it and do another set of commands when you hit it again. It's just kind of an on, system on, system off kind of scenario. But in a lot of cases, this would be for lighting or something like that, where you just wanted to have an on mode and an off mode. But this activity type is going to default to power on, which is probably where you'd leave it. And then the off activity for the room is going to be a power off activity. So I built the Watch DirecTV activity. I got a Blu-ray and a Watch TiVo option, and then my power off. Let's quickly go through and build the Blu-ray option. The only things, again, I need to add are my power on for my TV. And when you start seeing where these things go, you can start building these quite a bit more quickly. And in this case, Marantz receiver, I need an input select, which is Blu-ray. And this device does need to get turned on. So I'm going to choose a Sony Blu-ray player. And again, on our website, you'll see that there is a wake on LAN command for these Blu-ray players that need to be used for power on, because they're not listening to anything other than this request to turn on. So that's what I'm going to use for my power on command for my Sony Blu-ray player. I can move that to the top of the list because that's a thing that takes the longest to warm up. I can edit my power on command for the delay for the input select, and I can rearrange these two so they're staggered still as well. So Blu-ray player's on, surround receiver's on, TV's on, receiver switches input, and the TV goes to input 1. It's always going to be an input 1 because it's coming from the surround receiver, but it's pretty good practice to make sure that that always stays on input 1. If it manually got changed or something else, you'll just know that it's just part of that feature for that activity every time. And then last one, I'm going to go through and quickly do this for this TiVo box. In this case, I just want to send it a live TV request every time I choose this activity, but I do need to turn on the TV and select the input again, and tell the Marantz to go to the media player input. So input, media player, save. Again, I can do these in any order I want, but I can modify this and say I want 3 seconds on that delay as well. So power on, live TV, which is just a command that's going to make the TiVo go to live TV input. HDMI 1 input media player for that. This TiVo is not DirecTV, and it's connected to an antenna. So this is the one that I already added. I do want to add an antenna guide for this one, so I'm going to just choose my local broadcast TV. And again, there's not that many channels, so I'm just going to say all and hit save. And now I have this opening up a separate guide independent of what's happening for the DirecTV box. So the last thing I got to do is my off activity. And in this case, the only other thing I really need to turn off is my LG TV. Power off. And let's send an off command for the Blu-ray player. Whether or not it needed it, it's just going to stay off if it was off. I don't have it opening any remote. I don't have it doing anything other than just clearing everything else and saying this is the off activity for this room. So I'm going to get out of the edit mode, and I've got my 4 activities plus my off activity for the family room. And if I choose watch DirecTV, what happens is it goes out, it pulls up information from the surround receiver. It pulls up information from the DirecTV box directly. So this is currently what's playing on that DirecTV box. The guide service, the first time this is used, is going to pull in 2 weeks worth of program content for the several hundred channels that I had added. So the first time this asks for that information, it's quite a bit of data that comes through. But once that gets loaded in, you'll see there's a current timeline right here. There's the channels that are here. If I start scrolling through, you'll see this number pad on the side. Again, if I want to go to higher channels very quickly, I can do that very easily and just slide up and down the big numbers there. So if there's quite a few channels in your lineup, you can either scroll quickly or you can roll through it. In this case, my little triangle box here is telling me that that's currently tuned channel. If I see another program that I wanted to get information on, let's say Fantastic Four, I'm just going to click on this program here, and this is what Keith was saying. It's going to open up information about the movie, when it's next on, what channel it's on. I can get into more information about the cast and the crew, and get even more information about the biography of them. This is all coming from the internet, so it's again something that's real-time updated from Rovi. But when I want to actually watch this program, I don't choose the title of the program, I choose the channel. So HBO2 in this case, I just choose that, and now the TV shows HBO2 as the channel that's currently being watched at this point. Questions so far? I'm going to close out this guide. So right now, in this case, I'm on an iPad. I've got 3 columns. I got my activities, I got my control interface for the device itself, and I got my guide services here. I can choose to view this any way I want. If I wanted to see all of the content that's available from all my guides, I'll just grab this number and drag it across, and now it'll bring up the full 2 weeks worth of information for every channel that's out there. And again, I can pull up whatever I want as far as information for a particular movie or program and look at it that way. I can go to a particular time of day. I can go to a particular day of the week if I wanted to and load all this stuff in there. So I've got a comprehensive guide that is available on my screen or off my screen, but none of this is actually showing up on my TV. The only thing on the TV was that it changed from HBO1 to HBO2. That was it. I didn't have any guide information, which also then shows that I never even really used my cursor, my menu, any of these buttons. I haven't done anything, but I've been able to get to the channels that I want to directly just by going into that guide service. This little blue bar stacked up here brings that back if I wanted to. This little blue bar over here allows me to get rid of the activities and spread this out. This is dynamic, so I can basically have whatever information I want to have up on the screen at any time. This is something that you can alter within the layout of each device as well. But this is the default setup that works pretty well for most applications. Again, I have volume control for my surround receiver. Down here, it's giving me the input and the receiver mode that's currently active on the surround receiver. So I'm getting feedback from the surround receiver. I'm getting feedback from my DirecTV box, and I'm getting feedback from the guide services that are available to me as well. So if I go back to this bar, and let's choose Watch TiVo, which is going to do basically the same thing. It's going to pull up a whole different guide because it's local TV, at least for here. It's going to choose a different input on the surround receiver, which is the media player. And it's giving me the information coming back from TiVo itself. But the unique thing about TiVo, Dish Network, and DirecTV is we also have not just the guide services that it can get me to a particular channel, pull up all that information as far as what programs that I wanted to watch in real time, but I can also choose what's on the DVR. So this is coming from the website. This is coming directly from my media box. So these are all the programs that are currently recorded on my TiVo box right now. So if I can go in and say I wanted to watch a particular episode of Modern Family, I just select it, and it went from live TV to this particular program. And if I realize that, oh, I've already watched the first 10 minutes of this, I can just do a video slide and slide it in. I can actually hit 10 minutes to wherever I want in that particular program. And so I've got a lot of control over this box. It's not just pulling up the program information, but also pulling up the recorded programming, also being able to slide wherever I want to for that particular channel or particular program. I can even edit the one pass with this alarm clock. I can go in and say these are all the programs that are currently being recorded. And if I know that I wanted to, buffer this because of sports, I can do all of these one pass edits right here on this device. The only thing that's happening on the TV is I went from a live program to a pre-recorded program. There's no guide services. There's no manipulation of the menu on the TiVo box itself. And if you also notice in this whole situation, I've never even actually used the cursors or the numbers. I mean, in some cases, I've eliminated the number keypad from the controller because they're just not necessary. What that also does is it eliminates this reticence of a hard button remote for people. They feel like they need the hard button remote because they're looking up at the TV. They have to know where they are in the menu or in the guide, but the remote is in their hand, and so they need that feel. Well, in this case, the guide or the program content is in your hand. There's nothing that you have to look up at the TV. The only thing on the TV is your content of what you're watching. So it eliminates that challenge in a lot of cases. Same thing is true with Blu-ray. In this case, this is it's just a Sony Blu-ray player. Again, it switches the inputs, gives me an app launch stack option for at least this Sony Blu-ray player. And if I choose this little square, these little blue square stacks, these are all the applications that can be directly launched from the controller and not have to go into the menu of the Blu-ray player itself. So not only does it play Blu-rays, but it does all of these other app launches. Obviously, these need to be set up as a customer account for these particular services, but you can launch those directly from the controller and not have to go into the Blu-ray player's menu to do that. So a couple other things I wanted to show. If I go back to TiVo, say, and I'm watching my pre-recorded show, I'm going to turn the iPad into portrait mode, and it scales appropriately. I don't want the guide because I'm watching a pre-recorded program, so I just want the controller up here. But if I did want to have the activities, I could have those on the side. Again, this order and all of these buttons can be edited and changed. If I go into the edit mode in this pencil up on top, I can scroll down and say I do not necessarily need to have my display button. I can delete that. I want my functions, but I don't need the keyboard. I don't need, oops, I want to keep that one. I don't need aspect. I don't need now showing. All of these I can make go away. And if I need to, I can add them back in any time later. But it cleans up the look. We're providing everything that's possibly available for this device initially. And if I wanted to, I could change this design for mine. And so now this is a design that I can use for other rooms, other devices, and have this come up as my customized design for this particular application. So if I hit save, what you see is a lot of those other buttons that I'm probably never going to use are gone away. I can rearrange the order of these if I wanted to. The other nice thing is this little guy right here, this gesture control. Keith was talking about this in the presentation as well. This square middle space is essentially up, down, left, right area. And you've got 3 different windows of control here. And these are all configurable as well. But if I'm on the bottom and I slide to my channel surfing area, here's my cursor control. But the one I like the most is this one, the play, fast forward, rewind, pause, and stop. And so I don't have to be, I can be over here and slide. It's hard to do on this active, on this AirPlay version, but anywhere in this area, if I just make the gesture to go right, it will send a fast forward command. I can press anywhere and have it press the play. If I just slide up anywhere, it's going to actuate the pause command. And so within this area, I can do this with the thumb. I really don't have to look too much to see what I'm doing with my fingers, especially on a phone, because it works really well that way. And you're not going to see it, but I'm just using the hard buttons on the side of the iPad to control my volume. So I'm just holding it down or up, and now I'm rockering my volume control for this particular activity. I still have my content information on the bottom, where I am in the program, and all that, and I can always go back just by sliding up to here and get back to this layout. So that gesture control works well. You get to your program that you wanted to watch. In this case, I get to a particular show and I start watching it, and now I want to fast forward through the commercials. I don't even have to have all this information up on the screen. I'm just gesturing now with my thumb, and I've got my volume up and down to do that as well. So when I'm done watching all my programs, I can hit a stop. I can go back to live TV. I can incorporate that into leaving this activity as well. But if I hit my power off command, it essentially just clears this screen out and shuts down everything in the system that I wanted to have shut down. You can have something pop up here, a graphic, alarm clock, video camera, whatever else. This is just another activity, but it also takes the status out from any other controller that's looking at this room. So when I choose watch Blu-ray, this goes a little bit lighter, and then any other controller that sees the family room as an option will see that someone is using something in that family room, and when they go into the family room, they already know that the Blu-ray player is playing. And so the power off activity actually clears that out. So it clears the status, not just this controller, but for the entire system. So you've got the ability to see monitor what's happening in other rooms without actually going in and affecting those rooms at all. So questions there? I did not edit this listen to music, but I certainly could as well. If I wanted to, can't remember what the input was called. I think it was network. What's a Pandora? I don't have any associated, maybe I do in this one. It brings out a whole lot of information from the receiver, but in this case, it's pulling up my programs that are showing on the Pandora that's streaming service within the Marantz itself. So again, I don't necessarily have to look at the front panel of the display or the TV on to see what's going on here. Navigation is a little tighter, but it's certainly possible to choose a particular station that's already preset and hit select, and then you get that information in terms of the current now playing list. You can skip songs and do whatever else you have available on Pandora. So in this case, if it was just listen to music, I would probably delete all of these other features that are available on that surround receiver, but that's completely up to you in terms of what you wanted to have showing up for listen to music setup. So that was about, I don't know, was that about 45 minutes? I went from a system that just had devices on the network to, building out this complete room. And, I didn't match buttons to commands. I didn't say, this, in order to watch this particular channel, I have to map it to 540. It's just this is all basically built into the configuration. So when you're designing this system, the only things you need to do are customizing it after it's all built. In a lot of cases, it's in most cases the default works very well, but when you start getting used to it, and if you start to see that if I'm using this on a phone, I've only got one of these columns available to me at any given time, so I can kind of condense what I want to see or reorder what I want to see in this layout. So I'm not having to scroll up and down when I'm trying to do something special for this particular device. But that's all completely configurable. Every single one of these buttons can be edited. If I go into the edit of this design, and again, I go to the layout, and if I click on this one, it's just telling me that it's already added cursor right, repeat progressive touch, which means every time you hit it, it just keeps going. But I can make that be anything I wanted. I can change the icon or do whatever I wanted there. I could delete this entire thing if I wanted to also. Same is true of all these other commands that are preloaded, and actually same is true of my gesture control location layout. So this button has nothing in it. This one has return or replay, but I could change to what that is. I could change the icon in there. I could delete, let's say I don't want the cursor control because it works so well. I just have this gesture panel. So now if I go into Watch DirecTV and I choose gesture control, the only panel I get is this play, stop, fast forward, and pause. So it's very configurable to that effect. You can have it open the gesture panel as a default if you really wanted to at that point and not have all this information come in. But for the most part, that's completely up to you as to how that gets laid out. And when you start getting more involved with it, you can start building or adding in, button presses for lighting control, having the thermostat information come up here, adding a video camera, whatever else you wanted to do on that configuration. So the last thing I'm going to do, got a couple minutes left here, I'm going to plug my hub back in. And I'm going to reset this configuration to go back from nothing again and see if once the hub boots up that it gives me the configuration that I had back originally. But any questions, feedback for Insteon relay contact? Model 2450, I'll have to look that up, Matt, because I'm not positive on that particular model.
So what is the 2450 relay contact? I'm wondering if I'm using one in my system. I'm using a lot of different Insteon controls.
Yeah, I don't have any. I don't know. That would be a question for Matt.
Matt, can you answer that?
Yeah, it's the contact closure / relay module. It's a plug-in device. So when I go to find any kind of feedback for that device, I don't get anything that's related to a contact. It's all just related to the Insteon lighting control.
Is it just light on, light off, brightness kind of thing?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, there's some devices that they have a default assumption that it's a lighting device, even though it isn't, because same thing with Vera and whatnot. You can have door locks and standard lights, relays, brightness levels, switches, and there's some cases there's limited numbers of feedback that you get, but you can control it. You just have no way of knowing what it is, so you're only doing it discrete. I know that with our contact closure relay that we do have feedback from it, and so that one I know for sure you can get communication with.
So Rob, I am using that unit. I'm using it for my fireplace to turn my fireplace on and off, and I do get a on and off relay on it. So I've set it up so that I can see when it's on and when it's off.
You can, okay.
So is that actual feedback from the contact, or are you just controlling the relay?
I'm controlling the relay, but it does show that it's on when I turn the fireplace on. So I'm
Okay.
getting
Do you know what feedback you're using to create that?
I'm not at my house right now, so I can't answer that. And I'm not going to be there until November. I'd be happy to get back in touch with you, but I'd have to go back and look at how I got it set up.
Well, we can look at that, Keith, because I'm sure there's others that have it.
Okay.
So what I did is I plugged my hub back in, and now because I reset this configuration, it said, detected home, do you want to pair with the simple hub? I'm going to say yes. And what it did is it pulled in the configuration that I had working all the time, which in this case was my original house. And so I've got all of this back now on this particular device. And in this case, I've got quite a few different options in terms of what I wanted to do. But let me go back to another one here. Cameras are one option too that we can add in. Again, this is only going to be for local video control. The FOSCAM cameras have pan and tilt capabilities, so you'll be able to control those. If you wanted a bigger image, you could. You can have this as the off command. So if in my family room off, I wanted to change the design. I've got quite a few designs, so I can pick one. In this case, I'll say camera and hit save. So now when I turn the family room off, I get my camera showing up. And so that's an opportunity. Some people use this as a screensaver. Some people use it as a camera. Some people use it as an alarm clock. That's certainly possible. If this is an in-wall version, you could certainly have that as well. But I'm a couple minutes over. I apologize. If there's any other questions, let me know. Matt will try and figure out the relay feedback requirement for that particular product. But thanks, guys.
Thank you. Well done.
So thank you, everybody. We do appreciate your time. I hope you felt the training was useful. Thank you.
And Keith, you got this recorded, right? So they're going to have that link available to them?
Yes, I do.
Thanks, everybody. I was on mute. I was thought I was talking to the group, but yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. It will be posted up to our YouTube channel by the by the end of the day tomorrow. As soon as we get the video, we'll do a little bit of editing and get it up there right away. And we do have product in stock, so if you'd like to take advantage of any of the things that you saw today, we have product available to ship from AllNet. So thanks, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or one of your AllNet sales reps, and we'll be happy to help you out. Thank you very much.